The massive ships of the Terran Armada appeared without warning, their metallic hulls reflecting sunlight as they positioned themselves over Earth's major cities. Commander Juan of the Sol Defense Force watched in disbelief as the largest vessel hovered above his city, casting an ominous shadow over millions of terrified citizens. Commander Juan stood on the rooftop of Sol Defense Headquarters, his hands gripping the railing until his knuckles turned white. The ship above them stretched for kilometers, blocking the sun like an artificial eclipse. His radio buzzed constantly with reports from across the city as people ran through streets or huddled in buildings. "Sir, you need to see this," said Officer Choi, rushing through the rooftop door. His young face was pale with fear. Juan followed him quickly down to the command center. The large room, usually filled with the quiet focus of trained professionals, now buzzed with frightened voices. Screens along every wall showed similar scenes from cities worldwide. Tokyo, New York, London, Cairo, all shadowed by the massive alien vessels. Lieutenant Ju sat at the communications station, her face lit by the blue glow of her screens. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," she reported, her fingers flying over the communications panel. "The message is repeating in every human language." "Put it on speaker," Juan ordered, his mouth dry. A deep voice filled the room, speaking perfect Korean. The aliens called themselves the Terran, and their message was simple: Earth would submit to Terran rule or face extinction. The voice identified itself as Grand Admiral Rin, commander of the Terran Armada, giving humanity 48 hours to surrender. "Have they attacked anywhere?" Juan asked, scanning the reports flooding their systems. "No, sir. Just waiting," answered Ju. "The American and Chinese forces launched fighter jets for reconnaissance. The aliens ignored them completely." "They don't even see us as a threat," Juan said quietly. The next hours passed in a blur of emergency meetings. Military leaders from around the world connected through secure channels, sharing information and making plans that everyone knew would be useless against such advanced technology. At the United Nations in New York, President Kim of South Korea took the lead as the current Security Council chair. The General Assembly Hall was packed with representatives from every nation, many having traveled through cities now living under the shadow of alien ships. "We cannot match their technology," President Kim said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "But we must send a unified response. If Earth is to fall, let us fall together with dignity rather than divide, and be conquered separately." Debates raged for hours. Some nations wanted immediate surrender to avoid destruction. Others called for attacks to show Earth's strength. A few smaller countries even suggested welcoming the Terran as potential saviors from Earth's problems. As the deadline approached, President Kim stood again at the podium, now with the support of most world leaders. "We will not bow to threats," she declared, her voice steady despite the fear gripping everyone present. "Humanity has faced extinction before. We survived. We will survive again." The final message was simple: Earth refused to surrender and requested peaceful dialogue instead. Commander Juan watched the message transmission from Seoul, knowing the response would likely bring war. When Earth's unified response reached the Terran command ship, Grand Admiral Rin was genuinely surprised. He stood in the central chamber of his vessel, surrounded by his officers. The holographic display showed Earth's formal rejection of their terms. 300 planets, he said quietly. 300 worlds have fallen to us. None refused submission. His second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Tech, stepped forward. "Perhaps they do not understand our power, Admiral." A small demonstration. "They understand," Rin interrupted. "Their primitive scanning technology has been analyzing our ships constantly. They know they cannot win." He walked slowly around the circular display showing Earth rotating below them. "And yet they refuse." "Shall we begin the conquest immediately?" asked Tech. Rin studied the blue planet. Something about these humans disturbed him. No species had ever chosen certain destruction over peaceful surrender. It suggested either madness or a courage he had never encountered before. "Prepare the first wave," he ordered coldly, pushing aside his doubts. These humans must learn their place. Throughout his command ship, thousands of Terran soldiers moved to their positions. Attack vessels were prepared for launch. Weapons systems powered up, targeting Earth's military installations and government centers. On Earth, Commander Juan watched the alien ships begin to glow with energy. He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with new resolve. If this was humanity's last day, they would make it count. Professor Sook rubbed her tired eyes as she studied the alien signals. For 36 hours straight, she had worked in the underground bunker of the International Defense Coalition. The first Terran attacks had destroyed many military bases around the world, but they had not found this secret facility yet. "More coffee, Professor?" asked a young soldier, offering a steaming cup. "Thank you," she said, taking it without looking up from her screens. The patterns in the Terran communications were becoming clearer to her. She had spent her career developing quantum communication systems for Earth governments, but the aliens had mastered the technology centuries ago. General Wu entered the room with military leaders from 8 different countries. Their uniforms varied, but their tired, worried faces looked the same. "Please tell me you have something," said General Wu. "Their second wave begins in 6 hours." Professor Sook stood up and pointed to her display. "Their communication systems operate on quantum principles similar to our experimental models," she explained to the assembled military leaders. "They're far more advanced, but the basic rules are the same. And that gives us a chance." "A chance to do what?" asked an American colonel. "To introduce noise into their perfect system," she said. "Like static on a radio. We can't defeat their technology, but we might confuse it long enough to give our forces an advantage." Across the world, humanity prepared for the second wave of attacks. In what would have seemed impossible just days before, former enemies now worked together against the common threat. In the Sea of Japan, Colonel Park stood on the deck of a South Korean destroyer. Next to him was Captain Sokolov of the Russian Navy. 3 years ago, they had faced each other in a tense standoff over disputed waters. Now they coordinated a joint defense plan. "My submarines will approach from the north while your ships create a diversion," said Sokolov, pointing at the tactical map. "The Chinese vessels will provide cover from the west." Colonel Park nodded. "The Terran expect us to fight as separate nations. They don't understand that humans unite when faced with a greater enemy." In Tokyo, Dr. Han's laboratory had survived the first attacks. His team worked frantically to understand pieces of Terran technology recovered from a damaged scout ship. "Look at this," he said, showing his colleagues a broken alien circuit. "Their systems are too perfect. Every component is identical, precise to the atom. They've never needed to account for chaos, for randomness." "What does that mean for us?" asked his assistant. "It means their systems aren't designed to handle unpredictable inputs," Dr. Han explained. "They've never fought enemies who could threaten them, so they've never needed adaptive systems." He reached for his phone. "I need to contact Professor Sook immediately. I think her interference plan could work even better than she hopes." While scientists and military leaders worked on large-scale strategies, ordinary citizens found their own ways to fight back. In Seoul, delivery driver Jun gathered with 20 other volunteers in a hidden basement. Before the invasion, he had delivered packages throughout the city for 15 years, learning every shortcut and secret passage. "The aliens have checkpoints here, and here," he said, marking a map spread on a table. "But they don't know about the old subway tunnels that were sealed in the 2010s. We can move supplies through them without being seen." Across the city, schoolteacher Yuna turned her classroom into a workshop. Her students' parents brought household chemicals, while she showed them how to combine them into simple but effective explosives. "Be careful with the measurements," she instructed a former student, now a young man helping with the resistance. "Too much and it will explode before we want it to." When the second wave began, the Terran landed ground forces, expecting to find broken, disorganized human resistance. Instead, they encountered something they had never faced before. A Terran commander named Lox led his squad through the streets of Berlin. His tactical display showed the positions of other Terran units, all moving in perfect formation according to their battle plan. Their AI systems had calculated the optimal approach for conquering the city with minimal Terran casualties. Suddenly, his communication system filled with static. The precise positions of other units disappeared from his display. At the same time, humans attacked from 3 directions at once, not in military formation, but in small, unpredictable groups. Adjust to pattern Alpha 6, he ordered his soldiers, following standard procedure. But there was no pattern to adjust to. The humans didn't fight like any military the Terran had encountered. They struck quickly, then disappeared into buildings and tunnels. Similar scenarios played out across Earth. The Terrans' advanced tactical AI, designed for conventional warfare against organized armies, began to falter when faced with completely unpredictable human resistance. In her bunker, Professor Sook watched the data with growing hope. "It's working," she said quietly. "Their perfect systems can't handle our imperfections." For the first time since the massive ships appeared in Earth's skies, humanity had found a weakness to exploit. Major Lee ran his hand along the smooth metal of the captured Terran scout ship. After 3 weeks of alien occupation, this was their first major victory. A small scout vessel brought down by one of Professor Sook's disruption pulses and Professor Hand's improvised electromagnetic weapon. The scout ship sat in an underground facility beneath the ruins of what had once been a shopping mall in Busan. Scientists and military experts swarmed around it, examining every component. "Look at this," Major Lee said, pointing to where the ship's armor plating connected to the hull. Admiral Song leaned closer to see what the Major was indicating. "There's a gap," Admiral Song observed. "Exactly," said Major Lee. "And here, and here." He pointed to several other spots where the otherwise perfect armor showed small vulnerabilities. "They've never fought an enemy who had a chance of winning," he told Admiral Song. "Their armor has gaps they never expected anyone to find." Admiral Song nodded slowly. "Could these gaps be exploited?" "Definitely," said Major Lee. "A properly placed explosive charge could breach the hull. But more importantly," he paused, looking around to make sure only trusted personnel were within earshot, "I believe we could use these same access points to enter their larger vessels." Admiral Song's eyes widened. "Are you suggesting we could board the command ship?" "With a small team, yes," said Major Lee. "It would be extremely dangerous, but possible." Later that day, in a secure meeting room, Admiral Song presented the plan to Earth's unified defense leadership. Captain Mai sat quietly at the table as they discussed the mission. At 34, she had already distinguished herself during the first weeks of the invasion, leading several successful guerrilla attacks against Terran ground forces. "Captain Mai will lead the infiltration team," Admiral Song announced. "We need a small unit that can move quickly and adapt to unexpected situations." Captain Mai stood up. "I've already selected my team," she said. "Communications expert Wu, tactical officer Da, and engineer Bin, each chosen for their specific skills and unconventional thinking." The plan was daring, perhaps even foolish. While Earth forces launched a coordinated attack against the Terran fleet to draw attention, the small team would approach the command ship in a modified human vessel disguised with recovered Terran technology. Using the vulnerabilities Major Lee had discovered, they would breach the hull and infiltrate the ship's core. "What exactly will they do once aboard?" asked one of the generals. Professor Sook stepped forward. "I've completed a cyber warfare protocol that can be uploaded directly to their main systems," she explained. She held up a small device. "This contains the program. It won't shut them down completely," she cautioned, "but it will disrupt their coordination for approximately 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Another general asked skeptically. "What good will that do?" "In those 20 minutes, all their ships will be operating independently, without central command," Professor Sook explained. "Their perfect coordination will be broken. Captain Me nodded. That will have to be enough. For the next 3 days, Captain Me's team trained relentlessly, using the captured scout ship to practice their movements and timing. They studied the alien technology until they could operate it blindfolded. Finally, the day of the mission arrived. Earth's remaining military forces prepared for what might be their final coordinated attack. If Captain Me's team failed, the counteroffensive would likely end in total defeat. The team's modified vessel launched from a hidden facility in the Pacific Ocean. From the outside, it now resembled a Terran maintenance craft. Engineer Bin had worked miracles with the salvage technology, creating a convincing disguise. Approaching the command ship, reported Tactical Officer Day, his voice steady despite the danger. They're accepting our identification signal. The massive Terran command ship loomed before them, stretching for kilometers. Unlike the elegant military vessels, this ship was blocky and functional, the brain of the invasion force rather than its fist. Everyone ready? Captain May asked, checking her weapon one last time. Her team nodded silently. As they approached the command ship's maintenance bay, Earth's forces launched their attack. Thousands of aircraft, ships, and ground-based weapons opened fire simultaneously across the globe, targeting Terran vessels with seemingly random patterns designed by Professor Han to confuse their tactical eye. "We're in," said communications expert Wu as their small craft docked with the command ship. "Security systems are focusing on the external attacks." Using the schematics they had derived from studying the scout ship, the team located a maintenance access point. Engineer Bin attached a device to the ship's hull, precisely at one of the vulnerable points Major Lee had identified. There was a soft hissing sound as the device burned through the metal, creating an opening just large enough for a human to squeeze through. One by one, they entered the massive alien vessel. The interior was lit with a pale blue light. The corridors were wide and tall, designed for the slightly larger Terran physiology. "They never expected anyone to reach them," whispered Bin as they moved through the alien corridors. "Look at their internal security. Minimal at best." Captain Me nodded, leading them deeper into the ship. Their mission had begun. 20 minutes to reach the central command system, upload Professor Sook's program, and find their way back to the escape craft. 20 minutes to change the course of the war. As they moved silently through the heart of the enemy's power, Captain Me felt a strange mix of terror and hope. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had taken the fight directly to the Terran. Whether they succeeded or failed, the aliens would remember this day. Captain Mai led her team deeper into the Terran command ship. They moved cautiously through the blue-lit corridors, avoiding the few alien crew members they encountered. Most of the Terran were focused on the battle raging outside, where Earth's forces were attacking with unpredictable patterns designed to confuse the alien tactical systems. "We need to find the central computer hub," Captain Mai whispered. "We have less than 15 minutes left." They turned a corner and froze. Ahead of them was a large chamber filled with Terran technicians monitoring wall-sized displays. The displays showed the ongoing battle, with Terran ships moving in perfect formation against Earth's scattered forces. "We can't go through there," said Tactical Officer Da. "Too many of them." Engineer Bin studied the ship schematic on his handheld device. "There's another route," he said, "through the environmental systems section." They backtracked and found a narrow service passage. The air inside was warmer and more humid than the rest of the ship. As they moved through it, Bin's attention was caught by a control panel on the wall. He stopped to examine it. "What is it?" Captain May asked impatiently. "We don't have time for detours." Bin held up his hand, asking for a moment. He studied the readings on the panel carefully. "This is interesting," he said. "The environmental controls are maintaining very specific temperature and humidity levels, not just in this section, but throughout the entire ship." "So?" asked communications expert Wu. "So it's more precise than would be needed for comfort," Bin explained. "These readings are maintained within a fraction of a degree. That's extreme precision." He thought about it for a moment, Then his eyes widened. They can't adapt to environmental changes, he realized. Their biology requires absolute stability. Captain Mee considered this information. Are you sure? Almost certain, said Ben. Look at how much of the ship's power is dedicated to environmental control. It's a critical system for them. At that same moment, thousands of kilometers below on Earth, Dr. Han was making a similar discovery. In his Tokyo laboratory, he examined tissue samples taken from a dead Terran soldier. Under his microscope, the alien cells showed unusual properties. Their cellular structure is unlike anything I've seen, he told his assistant. The cell walls are extremely rigid. He performed a simple experiment, heating and cooling the sample while observing the cell's reaction. The results were dramatic. The cells completely broke down with even minor temperature changes. Dr. Han immediately contacted President Kim, who was coordinating the global counterattack from an underground bunker. Their cellular structure can't handle rapid temperature fluctuations, he informed President Kim. His words rushed with excitement. We can use that. How quickly can you develop a weapon based on this? She asked. We don't need new weapons, Dr. Han replied. Any device that can rapidly change temperatures will work. Industrial heaters, refrigeration units, even modified air conditioners could be effective. Back on the Terran command ship, Captain May's team had reached their target, the central computer hub. It was a massive room filled with glowing crystalline structures that housed the ship's artificial intelligence and communication systems. Set the device, ordered Captain May. Communications expert Wu attached Professor Sook's cyber warfare device to what they believed was the main input node. She activated it, and lines of human-made code began flowing into the alien system. It's working, she reported. The virus is spreading through their network. Tactical Officer Day checked his watch. We have 9 minutes to get back to our ship. Wait, said Engineer Bin. I have an idea. He moved to a different console. This connects to the environmental control systems. If my theory is correct, we can do more damage by changing the temperature throughout the ship than with the cyber attack alone. Captain May hesitated. The plan was to upload the virus and leave. Trust me, said Bin. This will work. She nodded. Do it, but be quick. Bin's fingers flew over the alien controls, which he had studied on the captured scout ship. He programmed a rapid cycle of temperature changes throughout the command vessel, hot to cold, and back again in minutes. Done, he said. Let's go. As they raced back toward their entry point, the effects of their attack began to spread. The cyber warfare protocol disrupted communications between Terran vessels, while the environmental changes began to affect the aliens themselves. In the command center, Grand Admiral Rin was directing the battle when the ship's temperature suddenly rose 10 degrees. Before he could react, it plummeted 15 degrees below normal. Around him, Terran officers began to stagger and collapse. Their bodies, evolved on a planet with perfect climate stability, couldn't handle the rapid changes. What's happening? He demanded, his own breathing becoming labored as his cellular structure began to fail. Environmental systems are malfunctioning, reported a technician. All ships are reporting similar issues. The temperature changed again, spiking upward. More crew members fell. Impossible, Grand Admiral Rin gasped, feeling his own strength failing as the temperature fluctuated. They're just humans. On Earth, Dr. Han's discovery had been shared with military forces worldwide. Improvised temperature weapons were deployed against Terran ground troops and smaller vessels. Industrial freezers were mounted on trucks and aimed at alien soldiers. Heating elements from factories were turned into makeshift weapons. The effect was devastating. Terran soldiers fell without a shot being fired, their biological functions disrupted by changes their bodies couldn't process. Larger Terran ships began to fall from the sky, their crews incapacitated by the simple but effective attack on their biological weakness. The perfect armada that had seemed unstoppable just hours before was now in disarray. As Captain May's team reached their ship and prepared to escape the command vessel, she paused to look back. The mighty Terran, with all their advanced technology, had never considered that their greatest weakness would be something as simple as a change in temperature. 3 months after the defeat of the Terran Armada, Earth was a changed planet. The smoking ruins of cities were being rebuilt. Captured alien ships sat in research facilities worldwide. People walked the streets looking up at the sky, not with fear, but with a new sense of pride. In what had once been a car factory outside of Seoul, Engineer Bin leaned over a workbench where a Terran engine component glowed with soft blue light. Beside him, Dr. Han carefully adjusted measurement tools around the device. "Ready?" asked Bin. Dr. Han nodded and stepped back. Bin pressed a button on his control pad. The engine piece hummed, then created a small bubble of distorted space around itself. "It works," Dr. Han shouted, checking his instruments. "The field is stable." The two men had been working together since the end of the invasion, combining their knowledge to understand and adapt Terran technology. This test was the breakthrough they had been seeking for weeks, Earth's first working faster-than-light drive component. "President Kim needs to know immediately," said Bin, already reaching for the secure phone. Within days, the news spread around the world. Humanity would soon have the ability to travel between stars, using the very technology that had brought invaders to their doorstep. Meanwhile, across the galaxy on the Terran homeworld, Supreme Leader Jun paced the Imperial Council chamber. The curved walls displayed images of the destroyed Armada, the captured Grand Admiral, and the primitives who had somehow defeated the Empire's finest forces. An entire Armada lost to primitives, demanded Supreme Leader Jun, his voice echoing in the silent chamber. How is this possible? The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. None wanted to speak first and risked the Supreme Leader's anger. "Our reports indicate they exploited our biological vulnerability to temperature variation," one counselor finally offered, "a weakness we did not anticipate they would discover." "And Grand Admiral Rin, what does he say about this disgrace?" Jun demanded. "He remains a prisoner on Earth. Their leaders refuse all demands for his return." On Earth, in a secure facility beneath the rebuilt United Nations headquarters in New York, Grand Admiral Rin sat across a table from President Kim. Despite being a prisoner, he was treated with the respect due to a high-ranking military leader. "Your people will come for you," President Kim said. "They will try to attack us again." Rin looked at her with his large, dark eyes. "No," he said simply. "The Empire does not rescue failures. I am no longer Grand Admiral. I am nothing to them now." "Then help us understand them," she suggested. "Help us prepare for what comes next." Rin considered her words. The humans had done what no other species had even attempted. They had fought back with innovation rather than conventional force. They had earned his respect, if not his loyalty. "The Empire is not your greatest concern," he finally said. "The Galactic Assembly will come to investigate. They will not allow a primitive world to possess advanced technology." 6 months after the failed invasion, massive ships appeared in Earth's orbit again. But these were not Terran vessels. They were the varied ships of the Galactic Assembly, representatives of 1,000 worlds coming to investigate the unprecedented defeat of a major power by an unaligned planet. When their transmission came, it was not an ultimatum but a request for a meeting. Earth's leaders gathered quickly to choose their representative. Ambassador Min was selected for her calm wisdom and diplomatic experience. As she boarded the shuttle that would take her to the Assembly's main vessel, she carried with her humanity's hopes for a peaceful entry into the galactic community. The Assembly ship's meeting chamber was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some breathed different atmospheres and watched from behind special barriers. Others floated in liquid tanks. The diversity was beyond anything humans had imagined. "You represent Earth?" asked the Assembly speaker, a tall, willowy being with shimmering skin. "I do," Ambassador Min replied, showing no fear despite being the first human to address the gathered representatives of 1,000 worlds. "Your world has created quite a problem for us," said the speaker. The Terran Empire demands sanctions against Earth for what they call an unprovoked attack. Ambassador Min stood straighter. The Terran came to our world with the intent to conquer. We defended ourselves, as is the right of any sovereign world. Using methods that resulted in many Terran deaths, noted another representative. We used what was available to us, Min replied. We did not ask for war. It was brought to us. The debate continued for hours. Some assembly members argued that Earth should be stripped of the technology it had captured, claiming humans were too primitive to be trusted with it. Others saw the defeat of the Terran as an opportunity to reduce the Empire's influence. Finally, Min addressed the assembly one last time, speaking with the confidence of someone representing a planet that had defeated one of the galaxy's most feared forces. Earth does not seek conquest, she told them, but we will not be conquered. The Terran learned this lesson. Others would be wise to remember it. Her words hung in the chamber for a long moment. Then, slowly, the speaker nodded. The assembly grants Earth protected status. The speaker announced. No further attacks will be permitted. Trade negotiations may begin at Earth's convenience. When Ambassador Min returned to Earth, she brought with her not just the Assembly's decision, but knowledge of a vast galaxy now open to humanity. The Terran Empire, once feared throughout known space, began a period of decline, their reputation forever damaged by the planet that refused to submit. 1 year after the invasion, on the anniversary of the day the Terran ships first appeared in Earth's skies, President Kim gave a speech from the steps of the rebuilt United Nations. Today we remember those we lost, she said, and we look forward to our new place among the stars, a place we earn not through submission, but by making those who sought to conquer us regret their decision. Above her, the first human starship, built with adapted Terran technology, prepared for its maiden voyage.